The emergency alarm screamed through the command center, their piercing wail mixing with the sounds of explosions in the distance. Counselor Thane gripped the edge of the control panel, his three-fingered hands trembling as another blast shook the building. Through the massive viewing window he could see his world dying. The sky over Vexar Prime burned with an ugly orange glow. Thousands of dark shapes moved through the clouds like a swarm of insects, each one a scourge vessel. They had come 3 months ago, appearing at the edge of the system without warning. Since then, they had consumed 4 colony worlds and were now here, at the Vexari homeworld itself. "Counselor, we must evacuate now." His aide, a young female named Sarah, pulled at his arm. "The defense fleet is falling back. They cannot hold much longer." Thane looked at the tactical display. The neat formation of blue dots representing their ships was breaking apart under the assault of red enemy markers. There were so many red dots that they nearly covered the screen. The Vexari had never been warriors. They were merchants, explorers, diplomats. Their weapons were designed for defense against pirates, not against an enemy like this. "What about the other worlds?" Thane asked, though he already knew the answer. "Gone, sir. Threshold 9 went dark 2 hours ago. We are receiving no signals from any of our colonies. We are all that remains." Thane felt his legs weaken. 20 billion Vexari had lived across their 7 worlds. Now perhaps 2 billion remained, most of them here on the homeworld, and soon they would be gone too. "Did the council respond to our plea for help?" he asked desperately. Sarah's face fell. They expressed their sympathies. "They said they would send observers to document the scourge behavior. They said our sacrifice would help them understand the enemy better." "Observers." Thane's voice was hollow. "They will watch us die and take notes." The building shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. Through the window, Thane saw one of their orbital defense platforms explode in a brilliant flash. The scourge were getting closer. "We need to go to the evacuation ships." "Counselor, please." Thane nodded slowly and turned to follow Sarah. As they moved through the corridors, other government officials rushed past them, carrying data cores and documents. Everyone had the same look in their eyes. Terror. Despair. The knowledge that they were witnessing the end of their entire civilization. They reached the rooftop landing pad where a small transport waited. As Thane climbed aboard, he looked back at the city. Fires burned across the skyline. The beautiful towers that had stood for thousands of years were crumbling. In the streets below, he could see the crowds pushing toward the spaceports, desperate to escape. The transport lifted off, joining hundreds of others fleeing into orbit. Through the viewport, Thane watched his world shrink below them. Even from here, he could see the dark stains spreading across the surface where the scourge had landed. They didn't just kill. They consumed everything. Buildings, plants, even the soil itself. They left nothing but dead gray rock behind. "Counselor, look!" The pilot pointed at the display. "The defense fleet is breaking. They are scattering." Thane stared at the screen. Their ships were fleeing in all directions now, abandoning any attempt at organized resistance. He couldn't blame them. What else could they do? The scourge numbered in the thousands. Each of their bioships was stronger than 3 Vexari vessels. The transport shuddered as they passed through the debris field from destroyed ships. Bodies floated past the windows along with twisted metal and frozen atmosphere. Thane forced himself to look away. "Where are we going?" he asked quietly. "To the Bright Hope," the pilot answered. "It is the last of the colony ships. We are loading as many people as we can, and then—" The pilot hesitated. "And then we run, sir. We go as far as we can and hope the scourge do not follow." Thane closed his eyes. His people had explored space for 10,000 years. They had built a beautiful civilization based on trade and peaceful cooperation with dozens of other species. And now they were reduced to refugees, running into the darkness with whatever they could carry. The transport docked with the Bright Hope, a massive vessel designed to carry 50,000 colonists. Now it held 3 times that many, packed into every available space. Thane made his way through the crowded corridors toward the bridge. Families huddled together, children crying, adults trying to comfort them while their own faces showed the same fear. On the bridge, Captain Vorn stood at the command station, coordinating with the other evacuation ships. He looked up as Thane entered. "Counselor, thank the ancestors. We thought you might not make it. How many ships do we have?" Thane asked. 43 transports of various sizes, maybe 3 million souls total. "That is all we could save." 3 million out of 2 billion. Thane felt sick. We need to leave now, Vorn continued. The Scourge will be in orbit within the hour. Wait. Thane moved to one of the control stations. Is the long-range communication array still functional? Yes, but Counselor, we do not have time. We tried every normal channel. We begged the Council. We asked our trading partners. No one will help us. Thane's hands moved across the controls, accessing the deep space communication system. But there is one frequency we have not tried, Sarah gasped. Counselor, no. That frequency is forbidden. The Council made it very clear. The Council left us to die, Thane snapped. He pulled up the old star charts, the ones that showed the quarantine zone. The region of space that all galactic species were forbidden to enter. The region where humanity lived. The humans are dangerous, Vorn said, his voice low. The Council says they are violent, unpredictable. They fight wars among themselves constantly. This is why they were quarantined in the first place. Then they know how to fight, Thane replied. He stared at the forbidden frequency marker on his screen. Everything he had been taught said this was wrong. Humanity was too primitive, too aggressive. They had nearly destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons before they even left their own world. The Galactic Council had placed them under quarantine for everyone's safety. But what choice did he have? His people were dying. The civilized species had abandoned them. I am sending the distress call, Thane announced, on all frequencies including the quarantined ones. Counselor, please reconsider, Sarah started. My decision is made. Thane's finger hovered over the control. Once he pressed it, there would be no going back. He would be breaking one of the most sacred laws of the Galactic Council. If by some miracle his people survived, he would likely be arrested for this. Behind them, the ship's sensors detected new Scourge vessels entering orbit. They were out of time. Thane pressed the button. The distress signal broadcast outward at faster than light speeds, carrying a simple message in Galactic Common. It told of the Vexari and their plight. It gave their coordinates. It begged for help from anyone who could hear it, and it went everywhere, including into the quarantine zone, into human space. Signal sent, Thane said quietly. Now we run. The Bright Hope and the other evacuation ships engaged their FTL drives and jumped away from Vexar Prime. Behind them, their homeworld fell to the Scourge. Thane stood on the bridge watching the stars streak past, wondering if he had just made a terrible mistake. He had no idea that his message had been received. He had no idea that in 17 different human star systems alarms were now sounding. He had no idea that humanity, despite all its divisions and conflicts, was about to do something it rarely did. Humanity was about to unite. The signal arrived at Station Unity 7 at 0347 hours Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Sarah, Chen was finishing her coffee when every screen in the monitoring room suddenly flashed red. What the hell? Her partner Marcus Webb jumped from his chair. That's the emergency frequency. All channels, maximum broadcast strength. Sarah was already pulling up the signal analysis. Her eyes widened. Marcus, this is coming from outside the quarantine zone. Way outside. It's in Galactic Council space. That's impossible. They never contact us. Well, someone just did. Sarah played the message. A strange voice spoke in broken Galactic Common, describing an attack, a dying species, a plea for help. The coordinates put the signal origin at least 40 light-years away. Should we report this up the chain? Marcus asked. Sarah was already reaching for the communication panel. This goes all the way to the top. Someone is calling for help. Within an hour, the message had reached Admiral Catherine Chen at Earth Defense Force headquarters. She listened to it 3 times, then looked at her staff officers. Verification? She asked. Signal is authentic, her intelligence officer reported. We cross-referenced the coordinates with our long-range scans. There is a star system there, and we are detecting massive energy signatures consistent with a battle. A big one. So someone is actually dying out there, and they called us for help. It appears so, ma'am. Admiral Chen stood and walked to the star map on the wall. Earth and its colonies glowed in blue. Beyond them, the vast empty space of the quarantine zone. And beyond that, the wider galaxy that had locked humanity away like dangerous animals. What's our fleet status? She asked. Third Fleet is at full readiness. 20 capital ships, 40 destroyers, support vessels. We could mobilize within 12 hours. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. She thought about all the times Earth had asked to join the Galactic Council. All the times they had been refused, told they were too violent, too primitive. The Council had left humanity isolated for 200 years, and now someone from that same galaxy was calling for help. "Mobilize Third Fleet," Admiral Chen ordered. "We are going to answer that distress call." Her officers looked at each other uncertainly. "Ma'am, this could be seen as violating the quarantine." "If we leave human space, someone is dying," Admiral Chen cut him off. "And they asked for help. That is all I need to know. Prepare the fleet." But Admiral Chen had no idea that her decision was being repeated across 17 different human governments. On Mars, the Colonial Defense Council received the same signal. General Marcus Okoye listened to the desperate plea and immediately ordered the Mars 2nd Expeditionary Force to prepare for deployment. 25 warships, the pride of the Martian military, began loading supplies and ammunition. In the Outer Rim, the independent colonies had always been suspicious of outsiders. But Captain James Rodriguez, commander of the Outer Rim Defense Militia, heard something in that alien voice: fear, desperation, the same emotions he remembered from his own childhood when pirates had attacked his colony before help arrived. "Get the fast attack wings ready," he ordered. "We are going, even if we have to go alone." In the Jupiter stations, the Belt Confederacy scrambled their carrier groups. At Alpha Centauri, the Proxima Defense League loaded their cruisers. Even the anarchist collectives near Barnard's Star, who usually refused to cooperate with anyone, started fueling their missile frigates. The signal had reached all of them, and all of them were responding. It was Admiral Chen who first realized the scope of the response. Her communication officer looked up from his console with a shocked expression. "Ma'am, we are receiving coordination requests from Mars, the Outer Rim, Jupiter, Centauri." Everyone heard the signal. "Everyone is mobilizing." Admiral Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "How many ships total?" The officer's hands flew across his keyboard, compiling reports from across human space. "Preliminary estimates. Over 300 warships, ma'am, and more signing up by the hour. 300 ships. Earth and Mars had fought 3 wars against each other. The Outer Rim had declared independence from Earth 50 years ago. The Belt and Jupiter barely spoke to each other. Humanity was fractured into a dozen different governments and twice as many political factions. But now they were all moving in the same direction. Admiral Chen opened a wide-band communication channel, one that would reach every human military command. She took a breath. "This is Admiral Catherine Chen of Earth Defense Force. I know many of you do not like Earth. Some of you have fought against us, but right now none of that matters. Someone called for help. Someone is dying, and we are going to help them." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I am not asking anyone to join Earth's fleet. I am not asking anyone to follow Earth's command. What I am asking is that we coordinate our response. We are all going to the same place. We should arrive together." For a long moment there was silence on the channel. Then a gruff voice came through. "General Okoye from Mars. Mars agrees. We will coordinate jump times and tactical data." "Outer Rim confirms," Captain Rodriguez added. "We will share sensor information." One by one, the other human factions joined in. Within 3 hours, they had established a basic command network. It was messy, full of old grudges and political complications. But it was happening. Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing the gathering fleet. Ships from Earth, Mars, the Outer Rim, Jupiter, the Belt, Centauri, and a dozen independent colonies. Some of these vessels had fought against each other just years ago. Now they were forming up together. "Ma'am, we are receiving a signal from Galactic Council monitoring stations," her communication officer reported. "They are demanding to know why human ships are leaving the quarantine zone." "Tell them we received a distress call and are responding," Admiral Chen replied. "They say we are violating the quarantine agreement. They are threatening sanctions." Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. "Tell them that if they had responded to the distress call themselves, we would not need to. And tell them we will deal with their sanctions after we save whoever is dying out there." The fleet began jumping to FTL. One by one, the ships vanished in flashes of twisted space-time. Destroyers and cruisers, carriers and battleships, hospital vessels and supply transports. Even some civilian cargo haulers had volunteered, bringing extra supplies and medical equipment. At the edge of the quarantine zone, a Galactic Council observation post watched in growing alarm as the human fleet departed. The station commander, a 4-armed Zentari, immediately sent an emergency message to the Council headquarters. "This is Observation Post 7. The humans are leaving the quarantine zone in force. I count over 200 ships and the number is growing. I repeat. The humans are mobilizing their entire military. The response from Council headquarters was immediate and panicked. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. We are convening an emergency session. Monitor their trajectory and report. The Zentari watched his screens in disbelief. The humans were not heading toward Council space. They were heading toward the coordinates from the Vexari distress signal. They are responding to the distress call, he reported. The call that we refused. There was a long silence from Council headquarters. Meanwhile, aboard the Bright Hope, Counselor Thane sat in the refugee ship's common area, surrounded by exhausted and traumatized survivors. It had been 6 hours since they fled their homeworld. 6 hours of running, of mourning, of wondering if the scourge would follow them into the darkness. Counselor, Captain Vorn called from the bridge. You should see this. Thane made his way forward. On the bridge, the crew was staring at their communication console. What is it? Thane asked. We are receiving a response, Vorn said quietly. Multiple responses, actually. All on the human frequencies. Thane felt his heart skip. What do they say? Vorn played the messages. They were simple, transmitted in crude galactic common with heavy human accents. But the meaning was clear. Help coming. Hold position. Medical ships en route. What you need? We heard you. We are coming. There were dozens of them, each from a different human group. Some were official military channels. Others seemed to be from independent ships. All of them saying the same thing, they were coming. How long until they arrive? Thane asked, his voice shaking. Vorn checked the calculations. Based on their reported FTL speeds and the distances involved. 4 days, maybe 5. 4 days. They had maybe 10 ships that could fight and 3 million refugees to protect. The scourge could track them at any time. But the humans were coming. Thane sank into a chair, not sure whether to laugh or cry. He had called for help from a quarantined species, from beings the Council said were too dangerous to contact, and they had answered. All of them. The scourge found them on the 3rd day. Counselor Thane was trying to sleep when the alarms jolted him awake. He ran to the bridge of the Bright Hope, still wearing his sleeping clothes. Captain Vorn was already there, his face pale. They tracked us, Vorn said simply. 6 Scourge Hunter ships just dropped out of FTL. They are closing fast. Thane looked at the tactical display. 6 red markers moving toward the 43 blue dots that represented the refugee fleet. Their few defensive ships were forming up, but everyone knew it was hopeless. 6 Scourge vessels could destroy them all. Send a distress signal, Thane ordered. Tell the humans. Already sent, Counselor. But they are still 2 days away. We have maybe 6 hours. Around them, the bridge crew worked in grim silence. They all knew what 6 hours meant. It meant they would have just enough time to think about dying, to say goodbye to loved ones, to regret not fighting harder at their homeworld. An hour passed. Then 2. The scourge ships crept closer, taking their time. They knew their prey could not escape. Thane spent those hours walking through the Bright Hope, talking to families, holding children, trying to give comfort while feeling none himself. He had called for help. He had broken the ancient laws of the Council. And for what? So his people could die running instead of die fighting. Then everything changed. Counselor, to the bridge now. The intercom crackled with urgency. Thane ran. When he reached the bridge, the entire crew was staring at their screens in confusion. What is happening? Thane demanded. Something just dropped out of FTL, Vorn said, his voice strange. Something small. Multiple contacts. They are between us and the scourge. Thane looked at the display. 7 new contacts had appeared, marked in green. They were tiny compared to the scourge vessels. What are they? Thane asked. Unknown class. But Counselor, they are broadcasting on human frequencies. That is impossible. The humans are still 2 days away. These ones came from a different vector. Faster ships, the communication console beeped. Vorn activated it and a voice filled the bridge. It spoke galactic common with a thick, strange accent. Vexari ships, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Outer Rim Defense Militia, Fast Attack Wing Echo 7. Sorry we are late. We came as fast as we could. Please stand by while we handle your bug problem. Thane stared at the speaker. They came. They actually came. Counselor, the human ships are engaging the scourge, someone shouted. On screen, the 7 tiny human vessels accelerated to impossible speeds, heading straight for the 6 scourge hunters. It was suicide. The human ships were so small that even one hit from a scourge weapon would destroy them. But the humans did not seem to care. Thane watched in horror as the first human ship, a small corvette called Defiant, flew directly at the largest Scourge vessel. The Scourge fired, its bioweapons tearing space apart. The Defiant dodged, twisted, somehow slipped through the barrage. It got close, so close that it almost touched the Scourge hull. Then the Defiant exploded in a nuclear fireball. "No!" Sarah gasped beside Thane. But the Scourge ship was dying too. The nuclear blast had torn through its organic armor. Air and fluids vented into space as the creature ship shuddered and went dark. They rammed it, Vorn whispered. They deliberately crashed into it with a nuclear warhead. The other human ships were doing the same thing. They were too small to fight conventionally, so they were not trying to. They were using their ships as weapons, as missiles, sacrificing themselves to take down the larger Scourge vessels. 2 more human ships died. But they took 3 Scourge hunters with them. The remaining Scourge vessels, clearly confused by this insane tactic, began to retreat. "Human ships, stop!" Thane found himself shouting into the communication channel. "You do not need to die for us. We are not worth this sacrifice." Captain Rodriguez's voice came back, calmer than any being had a right to be in battle. "With respect, friend, we did not come all this way to watch. We came to help. Echo 4 and Echo 6, pursue those runners. Do not let them report back. Everyone else form a perimeter around the refugees." The last 3 human ships broke formation. 2 chased after the fleeing Scourge. 1, a heavily damaged corvette leaking atmosphere, positioned itself between the refugee fleet and any possible threats. "Vexari fleet, this is Echo 7. Do you have wounded? Our supplies are limited, but we brought medical equipment." Thane could barely speak. You brought medical supplies to a battle? Of course. What kind of rescue mission shows up without medical gear? Rodriguez sounded genuinely confused by the question. An hour later, a small human shuttle docked with the Bright Hope. Thane and Sarah waited at the airlock, not knowing what to expect. The council files said humans were dangerous, violent, unpredictable. The airlock opened. 4 humans stepped through, wearing armored suits and carrying large packs. They removed their helmets, revealing strange faces with forward-facing eyes and flat features. One of them, a female with dark skin and short hair, smiled at them. "Hi, I am Corporal Lisa Martinez, combat medic. You folks called for help?" Thane just stared. She was smiling. They had just lost 4 ships and 12 crew members in the most violent battle he had ever witnessed, and she was smiling like this was normal. Your people died for us," Thane finally managed to say. Martinez's smile faded slightly. "Yeah, that is what happens sometimes. But they saved a lot more than they lost. Now, where are your wounded? We have limited medical supplies, but we can stabilize critical cases until the main fleet arrives." Sarah led them to the medical bay, where hundreds of injured Vexari waited. Thane followed, watching as the human medics immediately went to work. They moved efficiently, checking vitals, administering medications, setting broken bones. One of the human medics, a young male with red hair, knelt beside a Vexari child who had been burned during the evacuation. The child whimpered in pain. "Hey there, little one," the medic said softly, his translator converting his words. "My name is Tommy. I'm going to help you feel better, okay?" The child's mother clutched her baby, her eyes wide with fear. You are human?" "I am, and I promise I am here to help." He worked gently, applying burn ointments and bandages. The child's cries slowly quieted. The mother watched in amazement. "The council says humans are dangerous," she whispered. Tommy looked up at her while continuing to work. "We can be. But right now, we are here to help. That is all that matters." Thane spent the next hours watching the humans work. They treated every Vexari patient with the same care and attention. They shared their limited food rations with refugees who had not eaten in days. One human gave his jacket to an elderly Vexari who was cold. These were the beings the council had locked away. These violent, dangerous humans who flew suicide missions to protect strangers and gave away their own supplies to help refugees. "Counselor," Captain Vorn called, "we are receiving a communication from the human fleet." "The main fleet?" "They have accelerated their schedule. They will be here in 18 hours. Thane returned to the bridge. On the screen, Captain Rodriguez appeared. He looked exhausted, his face streaked with soot. "Just wanted to give you an update," Rodriguez said. "We got the 2 Scourge runners. They will not be reporting your position. Echo 2 and Echo 5 did not make it back, but they completed the mission. The main fleet is almost here. Just hold on a little longer. Captain, Thane said, his voice breaking. Why did you come? You did not know us. We called by accident. You could have ignored the signal. Rodriguez looked surprised by the question. You called for help. What else were we supposed to do? But your people died. Yes, they did. And they knew they might when they volunteered. But someone had to be first. Someone had to get here fast to buy time for the main fleet. Rodriguez paused. Look, I know the council tells you we are violent and dangerous. Maybe we are. But we are also loyal. And when someone calls for help, we answer. That is just what we do. The transmission ended. Thane stood on the bridge staring at the stars. Around him, the refugee fleet waited under the protection of one damaged human corvette and 3 exhausted human crew members. 18 hours. They just needed to survive 18 more hours. Behind them, in the medical bay, human medics continued working alongside Vexari doctors, treating patients they had never met before, from a species they had only just encountered. In the cargo bay, the remaining Outer Rim crew shared their food rations with hungry refugees, speaking in broken galactic common and learning Vexari words. And in space, 4 destroyed human corvettes drifted in silent testimony to a simple truth that the Galactic Council had tried to suppress. Humanity did not need to know you to help you. They just needed to know you needed help. That was enough. They came like thunder across the stars. Counselor Thane was in the medical bay, helping human medics treat wounded refugees, when every screen on the Bright Hope suddenly lit up with proximity alerts. He ran to the bridge, his heart's pounding. What is happening? He demanded. Captain Vorn stood frozen at his station, staring at the tactical display. His face showed an expression Thane had never seen before. It was not fear. It was awe. They are here, Vorn whispered. Thane looked at the screen and felt his legs go weak. Space itself seemed to tear open as ship after ship dropped out of FTL. Massive battleships appeared first, each one larger than anything the Vexari had ever built. Then came the cruisers, the destroyers, the carriers. The tactical display could not keep up with the count. Blue markers filled the screen, hundreds of them still appearing one after another after another. How many? Thane asked, his voice barely audible. Still counting, Vorn replied. Over 200 ships so far. Counselor, this is an entire battle fleet. Multiple battle fleets. I am seeing at least 7 different human command signatures. On the communication channel, Captain Rodriguez's tired voice sounded almost giddy. Echo 7 to approaching fleet. We have secured the refugees. Good timing. We were getting lonely out here, a new voice responded, strong and confident. Echo 7, this is Admiral Catherine Chen, commanding Earth Defense Force 3rd Fleet. Well done, Captain. You gave us the time we needed. Now get your people some rest. We will take it from here. More voices joined in. Mars 2nd Expeditionary arriving at designated coordinates. Jupiter Carrier Group Bravo, standing by. Belt Defense Coalition, all ships present and accounted for. Thane listened to the roll call in disbelief. These were not just military ships. These were ships from different human governments, different human worlds. Groups that fought each other. Groups that had been at war within living memory, and they had all come together. For strangers, for people they had never met. Counselor, we are receiving a direct communication request from the human flagship, Vorn said. The Indomitable. Put it through. The screen changed to show a human female in a crisp military uniform. She had gray hair tied back and eyes that seemed to see everything. This was Admiral Chen. Counselor Thane, I presume. I am Admiral Catherine Chen. On behalf of humanity, I want to say we are sorry we could not get here sooner. But we are here now, and we are not leaving until this is finished. Thane struggled to find words. Admiral, I do not understand. Why would you do this? Your government, your governments, they spent enormous resources to come here. For us, we are strangers. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. You called for help. That is reason enough. She paused. Now let us discuss the situation. According to our scouts and the data from Captain Rodriguez's wing, the Scourge main force is approximately 8 light hours from here. They are consuming what remains of your homeworld and your colonies. Is this correct? Yes, Thane said quietly, the pain of that truth cutting through him. Then we need to make a decision. We can evacuate your people to safe space. We have colony ships, transports, and medical vessels. We can ensure your species survives. That is already more than we could have hoped for, Thane said. Or, Admiral Chen continued, her eyes hardening, we can end the scourge threat, not just push them back. End it completely. Thane stared at her. That is impossible. The scourge have destroyed 4 Galactic Council expeditionary fleets. They have consumed dozens of worlds across the galaxy. No one can stop them. The best anyone can do is run. The Galactic Council tried to fight them with traditional tactics, Admiral Chen replied. We are not the Galactic Council. We tracked the Scourge fleet movements. We studied the data from your defense forces. We know where they breed, where they gather. They are hiding in the Void Nebula just past your home system. The nebula is impenetrable, Vorn spoke up. Our sensors cannot see through it. The Scourge use it as a fortress. Your sensors cannot see through it, Admiral Chen agreed. Ours can. Different technology, different approach. Counselor Thane, I am going to ask you a difficult question. Do you want revenge or do you want justice? Thane thought about his burning homeworld. The billions of dead. The children crying in the medical bay. The ancient civilization reduced to refugees in 43 ships. I want them stopped, he said firmly. I want them to never do this to anyone else ever again. Admiral Chen nodded. Then we are in agreement. We will take the fight to them. But I need something from you. I need every bit of tactical data you have on the Scourge. Ship configurations, weapon capabilities, behavior patterns, everything. You will have it all, Thane promised. Over the next 6 hours, Thane watched humanity prepare for war. It was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance performed by 300 ships that had never worked together before. Admiral Chen coordinated with the other human commanders. General Okoye from Mars, Captain Rodriguez from the Outer Rim, Admiral Zhao from Jupiter, Commander Nkosi from the Belt. They argued, they disagreed, they shouted at each other over communication channels. But they also listened. They compromised. They planned. Earth forces will take the vanguard, Admiral Chen declared in a command conference that Thane was allowed to observe. We have the heaviest armor. Mars forces will provide long-range fire support, General Okoye added. Our railguns can punch through those biohulls. Outer Rim fast attack wings will scout and probe, Captain Rodriguez said. We are good at getting in and out quickly. Jupiter carriers will provide fighter cover, Admiral Zhao confirmed. We will keep their smaller vessels off your backs. It went on like that, each human faction contributing what they did best. And slowly a battle plan emerged. But there was more than just military preparation. Thane walked through the fleet on a human shuttle, visiting different ships. On the hospital ship Mercy, he found human doctors preparing hundreds of beds. For your people, the chief medical officer explained. We know you have wounded. We have experts in alien biology standing by. On the colony ship New Dawn, he found empty compartments being prepared with environmental controls suitable for Vexari biology. Just in case, the captain said. If you need to evacuate more people, we have room. On the supply vessel Abundance, cargo holds were filled with food, water, and medical supplies. We brought extra, the crew chief explained. Figured you might need it after what you have been through. Thane returned to the Bright Hope with tears in his eyes. Sarah found him in his quarters, staring out at the massive human fleet surrounding them. They brought everything, Thane said. Not just weapons. Medical supplies, food, colony ships. They came prepared to fight and prepared to help rebuild. Who are these humans? Sarah asked softly. I do not know, Thane admitted. But I am grateful we called them. The next morning, the human fleet prepared to advance toward the Void Nebula. Admiral Chen gave Thane a choice. You and your people can stay here, protected by a defensive force. Or you can come with us. We have ships that can keep the Bright Hope safe. Thane thought about it. His people had run from every fight. They were not warriors, but they deserved to see this. We will come, he decided. At a safe distance. But we want to see the Scourge defeated. The fleet moved out. 300 human warships with the refugee fleet trailing behind under heavy escort. They crossed the 8 light hours to the Void Nebula in 6 hours. The human FTL drives pushing faster than Vexari ships could manage. As they approached the nebula, sensors began picking up Scourge vessels, hundreds of them swarming around the nebula's edge like insects around a nest. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. You know the plan. Earth and Mars fleets prepare for frontal assault. Jupiter deploy fighters. Outer Rim scout those flanks. Belt be ready to exploit any openings. The human fleet spread out into battle formation. It should have been chaos, all these different groups with different command structures. But somehow it worked. The Scourge noticed them now. Their vessels began emerging from the nebula, forming their own battle lines. Thane counted at least 400 Scourge ships. They outnumbered the humans, but the humans did not seem worried. All ships, we are going in. Fire when ready. And remember, we are not here to drive them off. We are here to end this. The human fleet opened fire, space erupted in violence. Human railguns fired solid projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, punching through Scourge bioarmor like paper. Missiles streaked across the void, each one carrying enough explosive force to crack a moon. Energy weapons lanced out, burning and cutting. The Scourge returned fire with their bioweapons, spraying acid and launching living projectiles. Human shields flared and died. Ships took damage, but the humans kept coming, kept firing, kept pushing forward. Thane watched from the bright hope as the battle unfolded. It was brutal, savage. Ships died on both sides. But there was a crucial difference. When a Vexari ship died, its crew died with it. When a Scourge ship died, it was just gone. But when a human ship took critical damage, Thane saw escape pods launching, recovery ships rushing in to pick up survivors. Even in the middle of battle, humans tried to save each other. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos. All ships, the nebula is opening up. I repeat, we have a clear sensor path into the nebula. We have found their nest. 6 months later, Counselor Thane stood on the surface of Vexor Prime and watched the sun rise over his homeworld for the first time since the evacuation. The sky was the right color again. Blue, not the sick orange of burning cities. The air smelled clean. In the distance, he could see the construction towers rising, new buildings growing from the ruins of the old. Around him, Vexari families walked through parks that had been dead gray wasteland just half a year ago. Impressive, is it not? A voice said beside him. Thane turned to see Admiral Chen, now dressed in casual civilian clothes rather than her military uniform. She had stayed, like many humans had, to help with the reconstruction. I still cannot believe it, Thane said. 6 months ago this world was dead. The Scourge had consumed everything. And now there are trees growing. Admiral Chen finished, gesturing at the saplings planted in neat rows. Your people are resilient, Counselor. You just needed time to heal. Thane shook his head. We needed help, your help. The humans brought seed banks, atmospheric processors, construction equipment. You brought everything we needed to rebuild. We brought supplies, Admiral Chen corrected gently. But your people did the actual work. You rebuilt your world. We just gave you the tools. They walked together through the new park. Human engineers worked alongside Vexari construction crews. Children of both species played together, the young ones having already forgotten that they were supposed to be strangers. An elderly Vexari woman sold food from a cart to a group of human soldiers, laughing at their attempts to pronounce the dish names. How many humans stayed? Thane asked. About 5,000 across your various worlds. Engineers mostly, some medical staff, teachers, volunteers, they wanted to help. Admiral Chen smiled. You should see Threshold 9. Captain Rodriguez refused to leave until every building was back online. His people have been there for 4 months now. I heard. I also heard that 3 of his crew have married Vexari citizens. Admiral Chen laughed. Yes, love finds a way, apparently. Even across species. They reached the memorial that had been built in the center of the park. It was a simple thing, a wall with names carved into it. Human names. 247 of them. The humans who had died in the battle at the Void Nebula and in the smaller skirmishes that had followed. Thane placed his hand on the wall, feeling the carved letters. We will never forget what they did. They knew the risks, Admiral Chen said softly. They went anyway. That is what we do. That is what you do, Thane echoed. The Galactic Council still cannot understand it. Why you helped us, why you risked so much for strangers. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Because it was the right thing to do. Is that not reason enough? Thane thought about the Galactic Council. He would be standing before them tomorrow, in their grand chambers on the Council homeworld. The thought made him nervous. Will you come with me? He asked. To the Council session? I will be there, Admiral Chen promised. Though I suspect they will not be happy to see me. She was right. The next day, Thane stood in the center of the Galactic Council chambers, before representatives of 47 different species. Above him, the council members sat in their designated seats, arranged in a massive circle. At the very top sat the Council Prime, an ancient Zetharian who had held the position for 3 centuries. Beside Thane stood Admiral Chen, along with representatives from Mars, the Outer Rim, Jupiter, and the other human factions. They wore their dress uniforms, standing at attention. The chamber was completely silent. Council Prime spoke first, his voice amplified through the room. Counselor Thane, you have broken one of our most sacred laws. You contacted a quarantined species. You brought them into our space. You endangered the entire galaxy with your reckless action. Thane took a breath. 6 months ago, he would have cowered before this assembly. But 6 months ago, he had not watched humans die to save his people. He had not seen them rebuild his world, asking nothing in return. Yes, Thane said clearly. I broke your law. And I would do it again. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Council Prime raised his hand for silence. You do not seem to understand the severity of your actions. The humans are dangerous. They are violent. They fight wars among themselves. We quarantine them for the safety of all species. You quarantined them because you were afraid, Thane replied. He heard gasps from the gallery. No one spoke to the Council Prime this way. You were afraid of what they might become, of what their violence might do to your careful, peaceful civilization. And we were right to fear them, a council member shouted. Look at what they did. They brought a fleet of 300 warships into our space. They brought 300 warships to save my people. Thane shot back. Where was the council fleet when we called for help? Where were the peacekeepers? Where was the great galactic civilization when the Scourge were killing us? Silence, you sent observers. Thane continued, his voice shaking with emotion. You sent scientists to study how we died. You sent sympathy and promises to remember us. But you did not send help. Council Prime leaned forward. We could not risk our forces against the Scourge. The cost would have been too high. But it was not too high for the humans, Admiral Chen spoke up. We lost 247 personnel in that battle. We lost 32 ships. For us, that was an acceptable price to save lives. Because you are reckless, another council member shouted. You threw your lives away. We gave our lives to save others, Admiral Chen corrected calmly. There is a difference. Thane stepped forward. Honored Council, I stand before you today to make a formal request. I ask that you lift the quarantine on humanity. I ask that you welcome them as full members of the galactic community. The chamber exploded in noise. Council members shouted over each other. Some in agreement, most in outrage. Council Prime called for order. It took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. That is impossible, Council Prime said. Humanity is too violent, too dangerous. If we allow them into the galaxy, they will spread chaos. They will spread help, Thane countered. In the 6 months since the battle, humans have helped us rebuild 3 worlds. They have shared technology freely. They have asked for nothing in return. No territory, no resources, no trade agreements, nothing. They are trying to gain your trust, a council member argued. This is a manipulation tactic. For 6 months? Thane asked. How long do you think this manipulation can continue? They have thousands of their people helping us right now. They are spending enormous resources. For what? What is their secret plan? To make the galaxy a better place? Admiral Chen spoke again. The council seems to believe we want something. You are right. We do want something. We want to help. That is all we have ever wanted. You locked us away for 2 centuries because you were afraid. But fear is not wisdom. We were wise to be cautious, Council Prime insisted. Then explain this, Thane said. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared above them. Images of the last 6 months. Humans and Vexari working together. Human medics treating alien children. Human engineers teaching Vexari students. Human soldiers protecting Vexari communities from the last few Scourge remnants. This is what you were afraid of? Thane asked. This is the danger that required 2 centuries of quarantine. People helping each other. The images continued to cycle. Thane had chosen them carefully. A human giving his jacket to a cold Vexari child. A Vexari family hosting human engineers for dinner. Mixed crews laughing together on construction sites. Human and Vexari children playing in the new parks. You say humans are violent, Thane said quietly. You're right, they are. I watched them fight. I watched them die. They are capable of terrible violence, but they are also capable of this. The final image showed the memorial wall with both Vexari and human families standing before it together, mourning together. They are capable of sacrifice, of compassion, of friendship. Yes, they can fight. Thank the ancestors they can fight. Because when someone needs protecting, when someone is threatened, the galaxy needs people who can fight. Thane turned to face the entire council. I ask you again. Lift the quarantine. Welcome humanity to the galactic community, and if you will not do it for them, do it for the rest of us. Do it for the next species that faces extinction. The next world that needs help. Because I promise you there will be a next time. And when that time comes, do you want the humans responding or do you want more observers? The chamber was silent again. Council members looked at each other. The debate continued for hours. Some species supported Thane. Many of them were minor species, smaller civilizations that had felt ignored by the Council for centuries. They saw in humanity a protector. Others opposed it. The major powers, the old civilizations, the ones who had written the rules. They saw in humanity a threat to their control. Finally, Council Prime called for a vote. The result was close. Very close. But in the end, 26 species voted in favor,